Joe Rogan has come under fire for some of the contents of his podcasts, and to put it mildly, it's divided opinions. But my hot take is that too much focus has gone on the people involved and not the platform itself. So let's put aside the people and see if the issue is more fundamental than it first appeared. Part 1. Platform versus publisher. If you're a platform, you get away with stuff. If you're a publisher, you have to take responsibility for the content you post. This is why every social media app and website claims this defense. If Spotify is going to go around buying up podcasts and getting exclusive deals with creators, it has to take some responsibility for the content, as it clearly has become a publisher. An argument is rarely about the argument, it's usually about something far more fundamental, like respect or trust. It's the same thing here. The issue isn't about Joe Rogan, Neil Young, or James Blunt. The issue here is what responsibility should Spotify have to its users? But I'm an adult, and if I want to hear both sides of the argument, I should be able to. Sure, I'd argue both sides is a bit of a fallacy in some cases. Not every side should get equal billing. Alex Jones thinks that some water is turning frogs gay. Really? He might be right, but until they come out the closet, I can say with 99% certainty he's wrong. And anywhere he wants to post that on a private business's website, it should be labelled as such. When hundreds of medical professionals are saying something is misinformation, the least Spotify can do is put a warning on those episodes, which in fairness they are doing now in a move that somehow has managed to piss off both sides. In an official statement, Spotify said, let's see if this shuts them all up. But what about his freedom of speech? It's not a freedom of speech issue. Spotify isn't the government, they're a private business. And although every social network likes to pretend they're about sharing ideas and thoughts, the reality is they're a for-profit business. They're not Ursula, this isn't The Little Mermaid, and they don't owe you a voice. Spotify claims they've removed 20,000 episodes that break their guidelines for COVID misinformation. So it's clear they have a stance on misinformation, but they're not being public about it. Which, I get, if you tell people where the line is, they're just going to walk up to it and not dance over it. Every choice an app makes is more than just a little tweak. I've got a full video on what UX design shows us about social media sites' intentions for their users and creators linked below. Every content business is walking a tightrope. In Spotify's case, they say, we want all the world's music and audio content to be available to Spotify users. With that comes great responsibility, balancing safety for listeners and freedom for creators. If that feels familiar, it's because it is. This is the same bullshit statement we've been getting from social media sites about misinformation or disinformation for years. We're not responsible for the content, we just make billions off of it, because we provide our little platform. The lack of accuracy within any of the content is not our concern. Bullshit, it is your concern. Newspapers are held up to a standard, which means they can't just publish outright lies. Alright, some headlines get through, but my point still stands. When a social network or app is clearly no longer just a platform and instead has become a publisher, they need to be held up to those, or at least some of those standards. But right now, with great responsibility comes fuck all accountability. Social media sites and apps have created a big myth around their lack of responsibility for the content uploaded to their platform, and the platforms themselves. They'll claim it's not their fault that bad content exists, or it's not their fault that bad people decide to use their platform for bad reasons, while on the other hand, they make daily decisions based solely on how much money it will make their company. I'm sure in those 20,000 episodes, some people said more accurate things than Joe, and others went full Alex Jones. The reason they didn't touch Rogan's podcast until now is they paid $100 million for his audience to join their platform. So it's clear the only way you're going to meaningfully impact Spotify's decision-making process is by hitting them where their wallets are, which is where the Delete Spotify movement has come from. Part 2. But whose fault is it? Spotify is making billions from their service and their content, so they should be able to employ at least one person to listen to the podcast they've made deals with to ensure if there is misinformation, it gets labelled correctly. Get a fucking intern if you have to. I should say at this point, I don't listen to Rogan's podcast. I've not heard the episode in question, but I don't have to in order to make a general point about platform responsibility. Every choice a platform makes is political, from changing the algorithm to deciding who or what is allowed on it. That decision has real-world consequences because you're making a choice about how other people can interact with the world. You're deciding what they can or can't see, or what they do and don't share, and in real terms, what messages people take in often do impact their future choices. When we focus on the people involved, we end up fighting and losing sight of whose responsibility it really is. The same we did 6 months ago when the Taliban were allowed on Twitter, but Trump was still banned. I've got a full video on how that came to be, linked below. But needless to say, I can't wait for the Taliban to bring out their own rival Twitter app. By narrowing people's worldview and scope, you're shaping their opinions and therefore their future choices. So when Spotify says they're valuing the freedom for creators over the content and the value that content could give other users, they're making a choice on our behalf about what information we're exposed to. I'm an adult. I don't want warning labels on my content. Well then the labels aren't there for you. Film ratings and explicit lyrics labels on songs are there for the people who need them. Right now Spotify is saying it's more important for their creators and them to make money from their creators' audio files than it is to help people not be exposed to misinformation. I've got no issue with Joe or any other creator talking about what they want to talk about. Go ahead, you live in a free country. However, where his podcast is placed is in a private business's website, and they have a responsibility to ensure any misinformation or disinformation is correctly labelled. Given all of Spotify's choices are made with dollar signs in their eyes, they're not going to get rid of Rogan. Hell, they still have Chris Brown and Lost Profits on there. Really think they're going to get rid of Joe after spunking 9 figures on him? Get real. Joe posted a joking apology where he said in the past some misinformation had been proven true. Sure, but then you update the label or remove it altogether when it's been proven. You don't just assume everything's true until it's proven false. That's not the way science works. In the last few years, we've seen more and more people believe what they want to. They go to imright.com and find whatever suits their narrative. And right now, a lot of people are scared, confused, and looking for answers. So it's easy just to take the first one that comes your way. It's getting harder and harder to spot fake news online, which is why some countries have started teaching classes in high school on how to spot it. But until that becomes more widespread, we're going to need the platforms, publishers to step up. So no, I don't think a single episode of Joe Rogan's podcast should be taken off the internet. I just want the platforms to admit they're publishers and as a result take responsibility for the content they've bought, commissioned or allowed on their site. Thanks so much for watching. What do you think about the situation? I'd love to hear. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm partially in the right ballpark? Put it below. I'd love to have a conversation about this. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and join the subreddit and or Patreon. Any and all support is massively appreciated. Godspeed and I'll see you all next week.